Everything's up and running.
Thank you, Russell. Okay, it's now 5:30 p.m. on Monday, May 11th, 2020, and I'm now calling this meeting of the City Council of the City of Paris to order. We'll start off by the invocation by Mr. Gene Anderson, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Mayor Pro Tem of Portugal. Mr. Anderson.
May we pray? Heavenly Father, we're indeed thankful for every blessing that you give us, and we're especially, Father, thankful for your guidance during this troubled time. Thank you for the mayor and the council as they've led out, Father, and taking care of our community. And we just pray that you'd continue to give them wisdom and understanding to be able to conduct all the business of the city. We pray and ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Which brings us to the Citizens Forum. Due to the governor's proclamation and order and the declarations of disaster issued by the City of Paris, Lamar County, Texas, on March 24th, 2020 and March 26th, 2020, relating to the global COVID-19 pandemic, the meeting will be held by video conference or telephone conference, and there will be no on-site gathering. Consequently, persons desiring to address the council must submit their comments by email to jellis@paristexas.gov no later than Monday, May 11th, 2020 at 12:00 p.m. Ms. Ellis, do we have any emails of anyone who wishes to address the council?
No, we did not receive any.
Okay, unless an item is posted on the agenda, the Texas Open Meetings Act prohibits the council from responding to any comments other than to refer the matter to a future agenda, to an existing policy, or to a staff person with specific factual information claims against the city. Council members or employees, as well as individual personal appeals, are not appropriate for citizens forum. Is there anyone on the call today who wishes to address the council? If so, click the raise your hand button and you will be recognized. Mr. Thrasher, do we see anyone there?
Do not see anyone at this time.
Okay, the citizens forum is now closed. Brings us to the consent agenda. Anyone have anything on the consent agenda that he or she wishes to pull for additional discussion?
No.
I'll entertain a motion on the consent agenda then.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Got a motion?
I'll second that.
And a second by Ms. Portugal. All in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, it passes unanimously. Item number 9 of the regular agenda, discuss and act on a resolution acknowledging the results of prior council action, declaring candidates as elected to office for council districts 1, 3, and 6 as a result of having been unopposed for election to office, declaring the terms of office, making other findings and provisions related to the subject, and providing an effective date. Ms. Harris, I'll let you handle this one. Or Ms. Ellis, which one?
Okay, you all had passed a resolution in February saying that they had run for office unopposed. And so tonight is the night that we need to administer the oath. You all approved the resolution declaring Renee Stone and Benny Plata and Clayton Pilgrim elected to office.
Have we already approved that resolution, or do we need to do that tonight?
We need an approval for tonight.
Okay, I'll make a motion approving the resolution declaring Renee Stone as City Council Member District 1, Benny Plata as City Council Member District 3, and Clayton Pilgrim as City Council Member for District 6.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone
Aye.
opposed? No one opposed. It passes unanimously. Next comes to the issuance of certificate of election and administer statement of elected officer to council members and administer oath of office newly elected council members. Ms. Ellis?
Okay, Mrs. Stone, if you would raise your right hand and then read your oath of office.
I, Renee Stone, do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of City Council Member, District 1 of the City of Paris, State of Texas, and I will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States of this state and the charter and ordinances of this city. I furthermore solemnly swear that I have not directly nor indirectly paid, offered, or promised to pay, contributed, nor promised to contribute any money or valuable thing, or promised any public office or employment as reward for the giving or withholding a vote at the election at which I was elected. So help me God.
Thank you. And then I can ask Mr. Plata to raise his right hand and read his oath.
I, Benny Plata, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of City Council Member, District 3 of the City of Paris, State of Texas, and will do to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and of this state and charter and ordinances of this city. And I furthermore solemnly swear that I have not directly nor indirectly paid, offered, or promised to pay, contributed, nor promised to contribute any money or valuable thing, or promised any public office or employment as a reward for the giving or withholding a vote at the election at which I was elected. So help me God.
Thank you. And now I'll ask Mr. Pilgrim to raise his right hand and read his oath.
I, Clayton Pilgrim, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of City Council Member, District 6 of the City of Paris, State of Texas, and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and of this state, and the charter and ordinances of this city. I furthermore solemnly swear that I will have not directly nor indirectly paid, offered, or promised to pay, contributed, nor promised to contribute any money or valuable thing, or promised any public office or employment as a reward for the giving or withholding a vote at the election at which I was elected. So help me God.
Thank you. Thank you all very much.
Congratulations, y'all. Have you on the council for another 2 years. All right, next is item number 11, discuss and act on an agreement with the Southern Drag Boat Association for use of Lake Crook on June 6th through 7th, 2020 for a drag boat race event, implementing COVID-19 measures, and authorize the city manager to execute all necessary documents. Mr. Path, you want to explain this to us, sir?
Yes, 2 weeks ago, Paul Allen with the chamber approached me and informed me that the Southern Drag Boat Association has, for a number of years, had their racing event at Lake Crook. And obviously, with COVID-19, there were some issues with spectators and so forth that they brought to our attention. I think this is all prior to my arrival, but I think there was at one point consideration of canceling the event, but they did decide to go ahead and proceed with the event, which obviously, from what I understand, again, I've not been here in the past, but from talking to members, staff, and other individuals, it's been a very good economic opportunity for the community through sales tax, hotel occupation tax, which have all hotel occupation tax particularly been taking a hit this year. So they did ask that they would like to proceed. We have the draft agreement in front of you. They will provide certain measures. They will manage the event. They will let's see here. I'll get back to this point back here. Schedule A discusses what they will be doing, announcements, boat tows, those kind of pieces. We have a part to play ourselves. They've asked for fire, police, and ambulance presence out there for obvious reasons. With a race event, having fire and EMS nearby is a critical piece. Also, we do some mowing out there along the lake. That way, their pit crews can be out along the lake there, so forth. Now this also happened very quickly, and so they have come back with a few edits. If you look at Schedule A, given there are no spectators this year, they have asked to scratch Schedule A subpoint A6, which is the advertisement. Again, since there are no spectators, there's no need for advertisement, as well as Schedule A subpoint A10, which is the portable potties. Again, since there's no spectators, there's not as much need for those extra portable commodes out there. Now, along with this, they have asked that under Schedule A, Section A8, number 8 there, the number there is $3,000 to pay to the city for obviously our services being used out there. They have asked that be changed to 2,500. Again, this is my third week coming into the job here. Didn't have a lot of time to dig into the numbers too deeply, but talking to staff and looking at prior agreements, $2,500 was the amount paid in years past. It sounds like a long time ago, the city did figure out a per day charge. Again, if I had more time, I could have actually dug more into that number here, but they have asked to change A8 to 2,500, which is consistent with years past. And I also look at it too, since they are having no spectators, there's going to be less entrance fees and revenue for their association. So I'm obviously pleased that they are still holding the event, which will bring some business to some restaurants and some hotels, which is good for our community. So the event is June 6th and 7th. Based off talking to staff and history, we can meet our needs, what they're asking of us. And so I'd recommend approval, and I'd even recommend the edits they have made. With that, if you would like for us to negotiate a different price, we can do that. Given the event is June 6th and 7th, I would then ask that you might give me some parameters to work under so that I can get it done before their event. If you would like for us to negotiate a different price.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Path. Mr. Allen, Paul Allen, if you're on here, could you unmute your microphone and address the council that you and I talked about this afternoon? Would be helpful.
Yes, sir. Thank you for asking me to visit. In talking with Mr. Carroll, they are going to implement the COVID-19 guidelines that they had stated. The thing that they are going to do, his estimated guess is they're going to have at least 500 room nights this year. But one thing that they are going to do differently than they have done in the past, since they are going to close Lake Crook, then what David is going to do is spend approximately about about $5,000 from local restaurants to feed everyone that is in attendance out there at Lake Crook. So we may not have as many room nights, but he is also planning on spending a lot more money with our restaurants.
Okay. Anybody have any comments or questions? Mr. Allen's still on. If you have any questions from Mr. Allen, ask him. I'll open the floor to the council, whatever, any comments or questions you got.
It looks to me, just a comment, that they're being very careful with COVID-19 protocols and no food trucks. So I think it's a good deal for our restaurants, especially, and our hotels, that we boost them as much as we can.
Yeah, and I had some concerns about this that I expressed to Mr. Allen, and he satisfied my concerns. The concerns I had were with no spectators, would we be dramatically down? And we will be down some. He said that last year, I think there was 650 room nights, and they're anticipating about 500. But the fact that they're going to be spending money on our restaurants and we'll be putting several people in our hotel rooms, I think even at its somewhat reduced thing, they had 104 boats last year. This year, I'm sure they won't have that many, but they're going to have probably about 6 people in each crew for each boat. So we're probably going to have 500 people here. And we would like to keep the event. It doesn't sound like we're going to lose any money on this. And I'm in favor of this as well.
They love Paris, I'll tell you that.
And I would also add too that they actually brought the COVID measures to us. We didn't request them, and so we do appreciate them being proactive on that. So it wasn't a requirement we made of them. They did bring them to us. So.
And I'll point out it is an outdoor event, and outdoor events have very minimal risk of transmitting the virus compared to indoor events. So I see with the precautions they're taking, I see no problems with COVID. Any other comments or discussion?
I'd like to make a motion to go ahead and approve this event for Paris.
Okay.
I too had a conversation with Mr. Allen today, and all my concerns were alleviated. And I think that the organization, but all organizations, ours, the chamber and the Racing Boat Association, they've done a great job trying to keep the event here in Paris. And yeah, I think that we should support it. And I make my motion for that.
You make a motion as written without changing the
Yes, sir.
price. Okay,
Yes,
that's good. I'll second that motion. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, Ms. Path, it has been approved as written.
As written. So just for clarification, so that, does that include the porta potties and the
With the amendments that you suggested that they no longer needed, with the porta potties and with the trash cans that wouldn't be necessary. Correct, Ms. Knox?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And then for the dollar amount, is it 3,500?
Yes.
2,500.
25. Yes, sir.
Okay.
2,500. Okay.
All right.
All right.
Hey,
Next
Mayor,
is,
Mayor, I have a request real quick. If you're on the call and you're not talking, can you mute? We can hear you drinking water and eating candy bars. I don't know. It's all different noises. And it's kind of hard to hear Mr. Path when he's speaking, or the mayor or anybody else when they're speaking. If you can mute your microphone when you're not talking, please.
Okay. Item number 12, discuss and act on a resolution regarding the Encore Electric Delivery Company's LLC's application for approval to amend its distribution cost recovery factor to increase distribution rates within the city. Mr. Anderson, you want to go over this with us?
Sure. In early April, Encore requested an increase in their rate applies to distribution. This is something they've done numerous times in the past. And what staff is recommending is that we initially deny this rate increase and give us time to study the rate increase and see if it's justified or not, and then come back with the council with those findings.
Okay. Any discussion or questions from Mr. Anderson? All right. I'll make a motion. We adopt the resolution denying the Encore rating as described in our package.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, we have denied it. Item number 13, discuss and act on an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Paris, Texas, extending the mayor's declaration of local disaster for public health emergency and order dated March 31st, 2020, and as extended and amended in resolution number 2020-011 and by ordinance number 2020-014 for an additional 30 days. Ms. Harris, you want to explain to us what this means and what it will accomplish?
We'll be glad to do that. In order to be eligible for certain reimbursements and aid from the state and federal government, you have to have an emergency declaration in place. So we have been doing that for quite some time. We extended it to May 26th back last month, and we're not having another meeting this month, so I went ahead and brought it to you. One thing that is slightly different in the ordinance that I'm asking you to approve tonight, after discussing it with the mayor, Mayor Clifford is of the opinion, given all the orders that the governor's office is putting out, that it's time to roll back that expansion of the youth curfew that we had done. So we will still have a youth curfew in the ordinance as it existed before the order. It's just going back to on weeknights 11 to 7 and on weekends 12 to 7, I think. So it'll just go back to what it was before all the orders. And other than that, the only thing different in the version that I've got in the signature file is I filled in the current information on the cases in Texas and locally. So with that, we would recommend that you approve this ordinance to keep our disaster declaration in effect.
So by approving this, we'll be keeping the disaster declaration in effect, and we will also be rolling back the curfew back to the pre-COVID curfew. We still have a curfew, but it won't be as restrictive as it was. And that was my suggestion, to go ahead and roll that back. I don't think, I think the evidence is that the kids aren't getting this. It's the people in the nursing homes that we really need the protection from.
And you summarized that far better than I did, Mayor, but that's exactly right.
Okay. Any question, discussion? Clayton, did you have something? Yes, sir.
Is it what passed the, other than the curfew, what passed the state mandate are we enacting, I guess, for our community that would be past the state mandate? I'm sorry.
As I understand, Abbott pretty much outlawed any orders more restrictive than the orders at the state level. So the only order I ever made that was mandatory was the masks at the nursing home. I still strongly believe that's essential, and I think they're all doing it for obvious reasons. But that would have been revoked, correct, Ms. Harris? That would have been revoked by the governor's order. Is that correct?
I believe that you're correct on that. There's very little, if anything, that we can do locally. We could revise our own curfew ordinance, which we're pulling back now, but in terms of anything else, we're pretty much preempted.
I was just curious. I had a couple constituents ask, they were, asking several questions about what we did past and I told them the only thing I knew is we did the PPE equipment for the nursing home employees, and that was it. So that answered my question. Thank you.
Yeah, we had several strong recommendations, Clayton. Although they didn't have the force of law, I issued several that I thought were a good idea, but they weren't mandatory. And so I mean, we're going to let those all expire, and we'll be running on what the state, what Governor Abbott wants the state to do, and we won't get obviously any more restrictive than them. But I think he's decided it's time to open up things, and I think the focus needs to be on protecting the vulnerable. We need to save our economy. We need to get businesses moving again, but we still need to focus on protecting the elderly, the people in our nursing homes, the people who are most vulnerable to this. So I think the focus in this community needs to be on making sure that we protect those people that are most vulnerable to the virus through our own voluntary efforts.
Could I just add that at the time that our last order was extended by 30 days, I think at that time we still had just 7 confirmed cases. We now have more than 13 times that amount.
Yep.
So I think that right there is an argument to continue to extend the emergency order.
And we need to do it to make ourselves eligible for funding should that come down the pike. We have to have it. So that's the primary reason to extend it. And basically Abbott's taken away any power we have to make any restrictive orders, which is certainly his prerogative, and it removes the obligation from us. So, but I think extending the order is pretty essential right now.
And Mayor Clifford, my understanding is that the governor is going to continue to extend the state's disaster declaration and kind of extend it indefinitely over time. I see no reason that as long as the state of Texas is under a disaster declaration, we wouldn't want to also follow suit and be under a local disaster declaration for the purposes of that funding.
Yeah, I just want to make sure people understand that we're not passing anything restrictive on the city of Paris. We're just doing this in order to stay eligible for aid should it be necessary, should it come down the pike.
Right. And the only thing in this is an extension of that disaster declaration and a rollback of the increased curfew. There's nothing, no order in here.
Yeah, and the curfew was something that we did earlier in response to this at the request of the chief of police. And I think we have the ability to roll that back now, and that's my intent to do that. Any other questions or discussion? All right, I'll entertain a motion on this if someone wants to do it.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the, as written, the extension of declaration.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor? Aye, and raise your hand.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, item number 14, discuss and act on resuming COVID-19 antibody drive-through testing, including but not limited to procedures and associated costs. This is something I put on the agenda. We had about 1,500 of the antibody kits. I'm still very glad we didn't order more for a variety of reasons, but we still have these kits. I had canceled the antibody testing at the time at the outbreak in the nursing home for a couple of reasons. The main reason, though, was we didn't have any significant community spread in our community, and it was not going to be very beneficial to test for antibodies at that point. We subsequently had outbreaks at 3 separate nursing homes, and we're having, looks like 2 to 3 cases of random community spread every day. And so there are people in our community who would like to know whether or not they have had COVID-19 and will have antibodies against it, and that it might have some, it might be helpful for some people to know that. That's what antibody testing is being done for right now. To say, I had an illness a few weeks ago, I recovered, I was never tested, and I want to know whether or not I have COVID, or I had COVID, and whether I might have some element of immunity to it. We have these kits. I think now is the time to start the testing, and I would propose that we open it up possibly as soon as this coming a week from tomorrow. We thought about going it Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I don't know how much interest there will be. My thought would be to open it up on a week from Tuesday. If it fills up, open it up for Wednesday afternoon, and if it fills up, open it for Thursday afternoon. We still have quite a few of these kits, and we can test a lot of people. So my proposal is to go ahead and get this going using the kits that we have. The other question is whether or not I had proposed just continuing to charge what was actually below our cost of $25, but what it costs us to do this. I still think that's not a bad idea. If you try to get this test at a local outpatient ER, it's $170 or $180. And if your insurance covers it, you can get it there anyway. But for the people that don't have insurance or just want to be tested, I still think charging a nominal fee of $25 makes sense. So I'll open this up for discussion. Anybody have any questions, feel free to shout it out.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. What is that testing that's being done over there by the fire station?
Yeah, Ms. Plata, that was the PCR testing. That's a nasal swab test where you're actually testing for the presence of the virus. And that's the type testing you want if you think you may be currently infected. That was why that sort of testing was very, very important. This is the tests that we have are for the antibodies. Right. And the antibodies test to see whether you've had it in the past and whether your body has developed an immune reaction to it. We have very limited experience with this, but I think our experience was parallel what most antibody tests are. To my knowledge, we had 4 people come in during the trial run who had documented infections with COVID. We knew it, we documented, we invited them to come in. We tested these 4 people, and 3 of the 4 people, as I understand, were positive for the IgG antibody, which means that 1 of the 4 people was not. And that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with the test. It means that particular person just didn't happen to develop an antibody. But I think that the test does have some usage for people who want to know whether they have had it. Let's say you had an infection or some sickness 3 weeks ago and it was pretty bad and you never got tested, and now you're thinking about going back to work, and you just kind of like to know if maybe that infection was in fact COVID. So that's what these tests I think can be used for most appropriately.
Right. Hey, my other question was, I hate to even bring this up, but all the flack you received, are you gonna have the same place?
Yeah, I believe it'll be. That's where they planned it out. They did an extremely good job disinfecting that. They used double the amount of disinfectant. They only schedule it for 2 hours in the evening when no one was there. No one goes in the school. But yeah, I caught a lot of. I didn't have any part in that decision, but I do believe that they have done a good job of safely doing that. I mean, they had the more invasive type of test at the fire station on Friday and Saturday, and they did a super job of disinfecting that. So I don't anticipate any problems with that.
Okay.
Any other questions, any discussion?
Yes, the ones at the fire station, I mean, not knowing anything about that, who paid for it, who knew about it, and because I heard about it on the street through talk, but how did that transpire?
After the conversation that Miss Portugal and I and several of the city people and the county people had with the state authorities, and we told them the situation we had here, we didn't have testing, and we had an outbreak in a nursing home and possible outbreaks in other nursing homes, and we really needed testing. That was when the state responded by sending us 400 tests, many of which have already been used. This mobile unit was a part of that response, as I understand, that they have this mobile unit and they sent it because we did have a need to test people who were symptomatic to see if they had it. So that's how that happened, and it got publicized as soon as the details of it were out. It was in all the media, but
Yeah.
that's how that came to pass, as I understand it.
All right.
Any other questions? All right, well, I'll make a motion that we resume the COVID-19 antibody drive-through testing, presumably as early as a week from tomorrow on Tuesday.
I'll second that motion.
Ms. Portugal, you have a discussion question?
Yes, I don't think we decided whether we're going to charge or not. And I think it's a good idea to charge what we were going to charge before.
Okay, I think that's a good idea too. Mr. Plata, is your motion, would that be to keep the charge at $25?
Exactly. I thought that was what we understood. I thought that's what he said first. Yes.
I agree. I hadn't clarified that. I apologize. But I do think that's appropriate. And if we have some people, I think, that are in dire financial straits, and I think the city would certainly consider doing some free of charge as needed on a case-by-case basis, certainly. All right, any other discussion? We got a motion and a second then. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No one opposed, it passes. And item number 15, any future events we want to discuss? All right, if Mr. Path.
Yes, next week is National EMS Week, it's Emergency Medical Service Week, and every year they usually have events, training for children, a meal for the paramedics and EMTs. Obviously, with COVID-19, they've been very busy this year, and also with COVID-19, they obviously cannot meet to do the normal events they do. And but I would like to just publicly honor and recognize our EMS personnel, the frontline responders who do go to the homes and take care of people and get them to the hospitals and everything. Obviously, put them their lives at risk, and so I do want to thank them for what they do. And so I just like to encourage all the citizens and the media to next week, if you see a paramedic or EMT, thank them and our staff, and think about them next week.
Thank you, Mr. Path. Anything else on future events or discussion?
Yes. I've had a couple of complaints about, I know with the COVID, we hadn't been discussing much about the street projects that are going on. I've had a couple of questions from the community about that. So we'd like to discuss what's going on with the street projects. And I know when John was here, we had discussed a couple of things about making couple of changes, but just getting with discussing the street projects and how that's going.
Okay, are you talking about how the projects are progressing, or are you talking about any quality or problems with the existing streets?
Well, we were trying to discuss about maybe doing some streets that, I know Fitzhugh is one of our main careways, especially to the hospital and all that. And it's speaking to road workers and then the public complaining with, I don't know if it was on the list, or if it's on the list, when is it coming up? And also we spoke with John about doing something for Tudor Street, which is all in Miss Stone's district. Well, some of it was in my district, but but those complaints are coming in, and I just want to meet that
Hey, how
up.
about, Ms. Hughes, how about we put Ms. Easton and Mr. Path on the agenda for our next meeting, and we'll discuss where we are and where we're going and any changes you might want to make to that.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything else on future events? All right, seeing none, I will make a motion for adjournment.
Second.
All in favor. Thank y'all. Appreciate it. Be safe.
Yeah.